record to this computer.
Yeah,
Recording
it
in
said
progress.
recording in progress.
I know. Hey, Robin,
Very fancy. Hey, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I am very well, thank you. Although I do apologize, I am still finishing my dinner,
That
so I hope that's okay.
that's absolutely fine. What have you got for dinner?
Steak and salad. So I'm just eating the last of my salad, which is like carrot and some s- baby spinach and corn and beetroot and roasted sesame. It's
Yeah,
yummy.
nice. Very nice salad. Very healthy salad. Ticking all the right boxes.
I
Um,
try.
yeah. Well, look, it's great to see you again. And it's been what, 2 weeks since we caught up last.
Mm.
Yeah, and I just wondered how things have been going for you because you sort of, when we caught up last time, you were very frustrated with your work situation and I guess the support that wasn't there in terms of, allowing you to spend time on your Cert 4. And I had suggested talking with your manager about that and just wondered if you'd managed to do that or how that had gone.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. Finish your mouthful. That was a bit of a low
Brilliant
blow, but
timing there for me.
that's
Um,
okay.
yeah, I took that on board. It was a really good suggestion that I have that conversation. So I took that on board and I did attempt to undertake that. I'm just going to put my jacket on. I'm a bit chilly,
Hmm.
which is weird given how hot it is here. Um, but
Yeah,
modern air conditioning, what can I say?
yeah, you've got the air conditioning blasting.
Absolutely have. So the end result was perhaps not as ideal as it could have been,
Yeah.
but as we sort of chatted, I bounced pretty well. So his response was, "Well, I'm taking a week off, so you'll just have to figure it out," which was great. So not only did I have my work to do, I had his for a week, which made it so much easier to fit things in.
Right.
But in saying that, I have I just ended up taking a bit more time outside of work to complete some of the tasks,
Yeah.
which, given it's very hot at the moment, having to lock myself inside in the air conditioning was not the worst thing I could do. But a little disappointing on the work side of things, but on the upside, I have all but one task left to do, which is just delivering the last lot of training for the module two.
That's awesome because that's like, for you, because you were saying that you were struggling with the time management side of things, and you've just actually really set yourself a goal. And it sounds like you've kind of really ticked some serious boxes in that. So that's
Yeah, well, I changed work-life balance into there is no balance and I'm just going to work because
working.
otherwise my life will have no balance. So I
I
don't know if
actually,
that's long-term sustainable, but we got it.
no.
We got it through and
Yep.
nobody died, which is also a bonus.
Yes. Yes.
Um,
Yep.
he is back today and did not make contact, but that's okay. Hopefully tomorrow he might touch base to see if I made it through the week of lack of support by him going on leave. To be fair, like he's got a lot on too, so
Yeah.
we're all sort of struggling.
Yeah.
And I think the upside is that I am quite resilient and robust. So um, he's
I think that.
probably well aware that if he just leaves me with it, I'll figure it out. I just might get a bit cranky in the meantime, and then
Yeah.
I'll get over it.
Yeah,
So
yeah. And it does sound like, you did that. And yes, you are very resilient, but it kind of uh yeah, I think it's nice when it's noticed, sort of, that you are putting in sort of that extra mile. And even though everyone else might also be doing that in sort of your workspace, I think that that kind of recognition is a small gesture that goes a long way. So yeah, I'm not him, but I reckon it's great that you've kind of, focused on what you've focused on and how you have. So yeah, well done you.
got to get it done. And
Yeah,
I did have to pivot a little bit. I was hoping to try and make my some of my training a little more valuable to the broader workforce, but
yep.
I changed that somewhat. So my individual training is whilst on a work topic, it's not being delivered to a work person. So that's their loss, my gain.
But as we sort of talked about, it's really hard to find people at this time of the year to be able to deliver it, to them, even in your workforce or wherever. So, we're just sort of fulfilling the requirements of the Cert 4 in having people in front of you. So, to find someone at
Yeah.
the year is
I
good.
had really hoped that it would give us a bit more flexibility so that it could be more realistic and more valued to our, well, particularly for me, to my workplace that's
Oh,
paying for it. But
yeah.
there just isn't that time available. So,
No.
unfortunately for poor Matt, he was sort of forced unwillingly into participating.
I think
But
I'm going to be doing that with some of my family members.
yeah, particularly when I told him he had a language learning and numeracy disadvantage that we were going to cater for, he seemed very much less inclined
Oh,
to work with that. But
he didn't run with that and kind of have some fun with it.
no, he didn't mind too much. And it was just that I'd said he wasn't accustomed to using a computer and so would be handwriting out his worksheet. Um, just because me trying to balance a recording device, a computer,
Yes.
and then a Menti just became way too much if he then also had to have a laptop going. I was like, nope,
Yep.
you're not very computer literate. Here's your printed out thing to write on.
Yeah, yeah, and hand it back to me. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and he did, and it's beautiful. His writing is I don't know if that'll be able to see, but
I
look,
can
oh,
see that. Yeah,
oh,
it
come
kind of
on,
went
let's
in and
play.
out. Yeah, there you go. There, moment. Oh,
Like he's got
great
some
worksheet.
beautiful handwriting in there, and yeah, of course it's got pictures. Can't have a worksheet without pictures.
No, no, I'll take that on board.
Well, I mean, you can, but I can't because I
No,
like to have a picture of a
like to
cow.
have
If I
pictures.
can put a cow on it, it's going to have one.
Yeah,
Any
brilliant,
excuse for a cow picture.
brilliant. I love it.
But
Yeah. Yeah. What did you like? Because you were just talking before about, like you kind of threw out the life balance and just went work and you just knuckled down and did stuff. Did you kind of set yourself kind of time frames or tasks that you kind of wanted to achieve each night or each sort of time? And because,
no, that probably would have been sensible. But no, I just sort of at 5 o'clock I went, right, I'm not doing my work for
hmm,
the day,
hmm,
and I switched to doing my Cert 4 stuff.
yes, yep,
And then, bit of time out for dinner, and then I did some more Cert 4 stuff, and then I went to bed.
yes,
Um,
yep, yep,
and then Matt gets up very early in the morning, so I usually get up when he gets up at 5 o'clock our
yep.
time, and
Hmm.
then instead of going back to bed or watching television or doing housework, I did Cert 4 work.
Yeah, okay, but that's no, but even though you didn't necessarily sort of plan out how, you actually planned to do and you committed to it and you did it, which has paid dividends, I reckon.
Yeah, it takes a bit of, I'll give myself some credit. It does take a bit of discipline to not go, I'll just sit and do this, which will
Hmm.
be way more fun. I have to go, no, I've got to do that. I've
Yeah,
got to focus on this. I've got to get this done.
yes,
And I'd give myself a little treat. I'd be like, oh, I've done 5 questions. I can have a biscuit or I can have a drink.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
that's it. I've been doing this for an hour. That's a second coffee time.
yeah.
Like,
But no, but that actually ties into, and I wanted to talk with you about the Pomodoro technique.
oh,
Which, yeah, so the Pomodoro technique is literally something like that, where you take 25-minute blocks or you take kind of 30, 35-minute blocks or whatever, and you focus on a task. So, like it sounds, like tomato, Pomodoro in Italian technique. Yeah, and that's where you kind of work this sort of segmented process
you could
and
tell I was Googling then, couldn't you?
I did, but that's okay. You Google away. But yeah, so I think that, when particularly when you do sort of sit down and do those tasks, and I've actually been thinking of applying this to myself because it sounded really good. And it sounded quite nice and short and sharp and focused, and then gave you permission to take, 5, 10 minute break to go off and do something or just be away from your computer or the task, and then come back and reconnect with focus. And I quite liked the simplicity of that, and that it was, task oriented, and you could see your progress. So that was one that I kind of was Googling when I was thinking of you with time management.
I'll have to have a look at it. I've got it
Hmm.
opened here and it does say over 2 million people have used it. So
Oh,
2 million people can't be wrong, or they
well,
can, but
yeah,
there's a
yeah. I
lot of
mean,
them being wrong all at once. So
well, there's a lot more people in the world than 2 million, but the fact that 2 million have sort of, looked at it, then that's quite a good thing, I think. So yeah. Um, One of the
and
things
they've
that,
got testimonials and stuff from
yeah,
people who probably are meant to mean something to me, but I don't know who they are. So, that's okay.
yeah. Well,
Um,
have a look at that and see if that can help with with your time schedules as well, like with what you're doing,
yeah,
if you
I
feel like
think
you need it.
a lot of my stuff is more about dealing with the volume rather than, and some of that I have talked about it a bit where I have to accept that not everything's going to be perfect. And that is a huge challenge for me because I want things to be perfect. And um, I think I've lost your volume for a second.
Am I there?
Oh, no, there you are. I thought you were talking and I couldn't hear you, but maybe
No,
you weren't talking and I
I was
just
just
imagined
nodding.
it.
Yeah.
So I can certainly say for the knowledge questions in the second module, they do not have the same depth that I put in for the first one.
Mm,
Um, but
mm.
the first one was like insane amount of writing, and the feedback I got from everybody else was that I well and truly overcooked it. So um,
Pared it
I
back
think.
for this time around.
Yeah, I haven't actually because I'm not quite at the point of submitting it, but when I am, I will have a look. But the final word count on module one for me was nearly 27,000 words. It's a lot. Um,
I forgot to look at the word count. I'll have to go back and have a look. Yeah.
yeah, I added it up. So per task, I
Mm,
worked out what the original word count
yeah.
was with the questions, and then what the finished was, and
Mm,
then how many words I actually wrote. So
yes.
my written words in there were 15,500 and
Yeah,
something,
wow.
and it was like, that is nuts.
Yes.
So I think for module two, although there's no way to account for the actual delivery
Yeah.
side of things,
Yeah.
which is a huge amount of work in.
Mm.
But so far it's looking far more digestible than
Yeah. You're being pragmatic about it this time round.
well, yeah, and I think it's the difference between certificate level education and what I'm more accustomed to. So like this is not a thesis and I shouldn't be writing answers that would align with those required at a university level. But for me, when it says briefly describe in, 1 to 2 paragraphs, that's
Yeah.
I've been putting
Yes.
1 to 2 paragraphs because
Yes.
that's what it
Absolutely.
says.
Yes. Yeah. And each paragraph consists of at least 4 or 5 sentences.
Yeah. Whereas
Mm,
I was talking to a few of the others and some of them said, "Oh no, I just like one sentence for that sort of stuff." And I was like,
mm.
"But it outlines what they mean." They're like, "Yeah, now we don't worry about that." And I was like, "Oh."
I,
So,
yeah, I think I sit in your camp as well, and probably overcooked the first sort of lot as well. So and yeah, and taking away from that, trying to be efficient in the process. So
yeah.
yeah, well, I guess that was something that I wanted to sort of suggest. But if you're, I don't know that that helps with volume, the Pomodoro technique.
No, but it's something I can look at, and
Hmm.
the I really do like focusing on small wins. So, like, I love writing really detailed to-do lists so that you can tick more stuff off. Like when it's a big picture to-do list, you don't get a lot of ticks. Whereas
No,
if you break it down a bit, you get those
you
small
get
wins
more
that
tips.
re-energize you and fill
That's
you
right.
with a bit of happiness again.
Right.
So I'm a big fan of that.
Hmm.
So, so those little tips, I will give that a try. That is my
Okay.
commitment to you. I'm going to give the Pomodoro. I
That's
might
right.
like dress
Well,
like a matador and be a Pomodoro and
or you could just come
make
back
some
and throw
bad
rotten.
puns.
You could just come back and throw rotten tomatoes at me and just go, no, it was not what you said it would be, and it was not effective. And here you go, one rotten tomato.
Well, we can have a go. I can try it tomorrow. I'm trying to keep myself at home again tomorrow. It's a very hot day,
Yeah.
so we had a total 5 band today and another one tomorrow. the weather's supposed to be slightly better, but I'm going to try and stay home and focus on catching up my paperwork from
Yes.
today,
Yep.
which there will be a bit of,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah. 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 And I guess one of the other things that I'm changing subject here because I'm just sort of conscious of your time and our time. Um, that kind of process of you were talking about wanting to use more interactive online tools, was it, or have more interactive sort of space with, you know, are your trainings all in person?
Generally, they are. I have been trying to practice a bit more with online delivery stuff. Just I really struggle, particularly presenting on Teams or presenting a PowerPoint, even on Zoom, is that I can't see the people.
Yeah,
So I don't know what they're doing,
yeah,
and I don't know whether they're engaged or not.
yeah.
And I haven't figured out how to change that because once you go into presenter mode, you lose that ability to see the people. And
You do, or you can have them. Actually, when I was doing the hybrid thing the other day, I had them down to I actually had them sitting over the top of my slides, but then had the notes section just to the right, like right hand. And I had them sitting over the slides because I, of course, had the slides up on my other screen. Well, I had them up on the other screen.
ah,
Yeah, and so I could sort of see them sort of sitting just to the left. And yeah, and I guess so, kind of was semi paying attention to whether they were attentive or not. But you use interactive tools when you're doing your training workshops and stuff like that, do you?
yeah. So I've used Mentimeter. I love
Yes.
Mentimeter. I
Yeah.
don't know why I love Menti. It's got so many delays, but I still really enjoy it. And I've tried Kahoot. Don't
Yeah.
love it as much. Yeah, it's more just that interaction. So I presented for nearly 2 hours on Friday to a bunch of people from our Southwest and Southeast teams
Yeah.
who I didn't know very well and really struggled. Like I had to keep stopping to go, hey, is everyone okay? Are you all still there? Like,
Yeah.
are you alive? Because they weren't
Yeah.
saying anything, they weren't
Yeah.
responding. I'd ask questions and it was cricket.
Right.
Um, And the person who asked me to run the training was like, "Oh, did you get them to turn their cameras on?" And I was like, "Well, I can't see them. So having their cameras on really doesn't mean anything because they're not there. All I can see is the PowerPoint."
Yeah.
So they could have literally been sitting there banging their heads with a hammer and I wouldn't know. And I don't know if that's a failure in my tech or my abilities to use the tech, but it's something I really struggle with.
Let me just have a look. I reckon that when you go into where was I? I was who was doing oh in the first no, was it the last session with Matthew? Someone had their they had it so that you were a feature of, but didn't they also have everyone up the top as well, so you could see them up the top? So it was like the
Yeah,
presentation was happening.
I think that was Ria. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
When I was presenting in Zoom, I didn't realize that I had the weird's. When I did the one in Matthew's session, I didn't realize I had my face next to the screen, which didn't work with my PowerPoint because it
yeah,
had small writing, and I was like,
yeah,
oh
yeah,
no.
yeah.
Um, but again, I'd never presented in Zoom, so that was a bit of a novelty for me. Um, and we don't generally use it.
You
It's
don't
not.
generally, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not sure why. It's not supported by our department. They consider it an unstable platform.
Well,
Why, I
and
don't know, but
most
it is.
government entities are like that anyway. Like everywhere over here, all of the state government over here are teams as well. So, so I've got to flick between the two, depending on who I'm doing stuff with. But I'm not fully across it yet. But I do know that you can. I do know that there is a way that you can actually have a gallery and you can have your presentation and yeah, and you can see everything. Um,
It's something I've got to work on. I was talking to our training team because they're writing a training package for
yeah,
us for our new learning management system.
yeah.
And I was talking to them and they said, oh, they get someone else to share the slides. And I was like, ah.
Um,
Because I always wondered why when they do it, they'd be like, and next slide,
another one.
please. I was like, that's weird.
Yeah,
But
okay.
they do that so that they can see the learners on the screen. And I was like, oh, I don't know.
Maybe,
Seems
and
odd to me.
yeah. I mean,
But there's
yeah,
got to be a way. There's got to be a way
there must
around it. I
be a
just don't
way.
know what it is.
Yeah, I'm going to look into that for you, and that will be something that I come back with is like just trying to find how you can have um
A gallery view.
yeah, yeah.
Probably a button that says gallery view.
Well, there is, but I don't want to press it now while we're actually doing our thing in case I lose you. And I don't want
Yeah.
to lose you yet,
You
right?
can never lose me. I'll find you.
One of the,
But yeah, well, if you can look into how to do it on Zoom, and I'll try and look into how to do it on Teams, and we can
yeah,
share.
yeah, and we can
Um,
we can share. Yeah, yeah,
I would like to use Zoom more. It's just I don't get a lot of opportunity. So we use Teams internally and WebEx when we're doing court stuff.
yeah, okay,
Um, and that is dictated by the court system.
yeah,
So they get to choose. They're the important people. We just
yeah,
get to come along.
yeah.
Um,
You're just a guest.
literally. They call us different names, but guest sounds not much nicer.
Yeah, okay. We'll stick with that. Um, One of the other things that I wanted to before our next session also touch base with you is are you quite active in kind of social media and that sort of stuff? Like, do you use social media or do you use networking like LinkedIn and that kind of stuff? Because I was just thinking about that side of, professional development and building your networks. And yeah, just wondered what you kind of do at the moment, if
I do
anything.
a lot of looking on those things, but not a
Yeah,
lot of participating. And again, that's dictated by the department. So there
yeah,
is a limit to how much we're allowed to use social media for things. But I do love to look at stuff on all of the above. So I love my Instagram and checking out other people's lives
yeah,
and living vicariously through others on Facebook.
yeah.
LinkedIn, I'm terribly out of date with. Um,
Because LinkedIn might be one of those ones that I'm not great at it, but I've certainly been recently upskilled in it as a tool to connect with people and to open up those kind of connections if that was sort of something that you wanted to do in terms of, yeah, just, professional development opportunities and that kind of stuff. And so maybe at the next session, I'm not an expert in LinkedIn, but if you wanted, we could have a look at it and I could talk you through some things that I've sort of picked up if that was of any help, or even just I think sort of looking at, do you get involved in like I don't know, the Rural Women's Network or anything like that that sort of opens and builds. You got to laugh at me. Not the well, the Women's Network probably isn't the right one, but you know what I mean in terms of those.
I do absolutely know what you mean, and I'm laughing because some of those things I think I would love to do,
Oh, okay,
but again are limited. So as much as there are so many opportunities for networking, particularly within the agricultural sector as a compliance agency, I have some
yeah,
real conflicts there.
yeah,
So it becomes a massive issue with conflict of interest.
yes,
So
yes.
it sometimes becomes extremely limiting. Um,
Do they have networks for sort of, if there is that conflict of interest there, do you have your own sort of internal kind of networks that you could utilize or I guess,
yeah, well, so I work in a team that's
yeah,
quite large.
yeah, yeah,
So we talk a fair bit, and then we've got our Southwest and our Southeast team, and then we have our compliance team that we talk about compliance stuff
yeah.
with. But to be fair, also most of the time at the end of the day, I don't really want to
Don't
talk
want to.
about work stuff.
No.
And I don't want to have to interact with the members of the public that I might have seen in a work capacity, which is unfortunately where a lot of those community groups become really problematic. Like I even struggle with the fire brigade in that I will bump into people that I've had to deal with from a compliance perspective or have taken legal action with
Yeah.
and becomes super uncomfortable.
Oh, yes, I can
And sometimes adds a level of hostility in my personal life that I don't have time for
imagine.
and I want to avoid. So it becomes quite complicated and it becomes very isolating too. So I sort of look at colleagues that have been in this business for a long period of time and they're all a bit lonely, which is not ideal long term. I'm
No,
very lucky because I'm extremely good at compartmentalizing and going, that box belongs over there, and that's for that box. And
yeah.
I'm also really good that I can't remember names for faces for the love of money. Our neighbor, all the time, I forget her name, or I'll look at her and be like, oh, she looks lovely. I wonder what her name is. And she'll be like, I live next door, you idiot. I'm like, oh, whoops, sorry. Um, but like on the upside for me, it's not like I walked down the street going, oh yeah, prosecuted them. I just walked down the street going, look how all these people seem cranky. I wonder what their problem is. Uh, less than
Well,
ideal, but sometimes being a bit dim really helps.
I don't think it's dim, actually. I don't think it, maybe it's an element of self-preservation and just, as you sort of said, compartmentalizing things so that, it's
Yeah,
a
or
job.
trauma blocking or something.
It's a job. I do my job and then I set it aside. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I don't know. I just when we were talking and when you sort of I guess at the beginning, yeah.
I was a bit emotional last time. I won't lie.
Well,
I'd had a good chat with Anna beforehand, and she was like, "Oh, you should talk about that later." And I'm like, no,
no, no.
that ain't gonna happen."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No.
And likewise, it's not going to happen on this one either.
Right, and that's fine, and it doesn't need to. It's entirely up
That's
to
not a
you.
you thing. That's a it's being recorded thing. So
Yeah,
just so
no,
we're
and
really clear.
that's a very important thing.
So I completely understand and respect our privacy and confidentiality agreement, but I also um, I
No,
had a cruddy training and I was very upset about it. And we can talk about it offline sometime, but not as part of our mentoring
no,
session.
and that's okay. But it also sounds like you've managed to compartmentalize that as well, and just sort of put it there, and that's not a bad thing to be able to do either. I don't think.
Yeah, one day someone's going to knock over all those boxes of things I'm going to deal with later, though, and that might be an ugly day. But for now, they're firmly up there on that I'm not touching you yet
Yeah,
shelf, and
they're well and truly sort of cemented together.
they're like over there where I don't have to look at them.
No,
Um, and
okay.
unfortunately, every new week brings a new thing for me to pop in a box and not deal with until I get around to it. So, it's a
Mm,
never-ending box of boxes for me.
mm, mm. Well, yeah, I don't know. I don't have any suggestions for that, but I might think about that sort of between now and our next catch up, which we have agreed is on the 6th of January.
No, the
Oh,
ninth,
the 9th.
the ninth at
Ninth.
4:30
Yep.
WA time on
Yep.
the ninth.
I'll send you an invite once we get off. Yeah, so I guess moving forward, I'm going to find out for you around, well, we're both going to do a bit of homework. We're going to do a bit of homework on Zoom and Teams, and if
Teams.
we can find a better way to do our presentations and actually, be able to see our audience.
Audience.
And yeah, and keep that so that you can keep that engagement up. Yeah,
I'm
and
gonna have a go at being a Pomodoro.
yeah,
No,
Pomodoro. You're going to have the
Pomodoro.
Pomodoro technique. Yeah. But I actually think that you've already started doing that. So it might just be fine tuning what you're doing with, sitting down and going, I'm doing this now and that's what I'm doing. And so, you leave it there and yeah.
Oh, it can't hurt. I am very much an easily distracted bunny, so um,
Hmm.
or a magpie, shiny things. I'll be like, ooh,
Yeah.
look at that ad that popped up on my my web page that I just opened to like look something up in, and I'm down that rabbit hole for a while.
No, no, no.
So
Well, avoid. We've managed to. I think you should be really pleased with where you're at because you've managed to, make huge inroads into your Cert 4, and and you did actually, when we met last time, you did actually sort of, ask your manager if there was an opportunity to make more time. So that was a pretty, I think, to revisit that because you said that you'd had that conversation before, but you kind of took that on board and went, no, I'll go back there again. So yeah, I
yeah,
reckon that you kind of, yeah, you shouldn't sort of think that there hasn't been progress made at all since we last chatted in the things that you've
no.
done and the approaches that you've taken. Yeah,
Every step forward is a step in the right direction.
it
Even
is.
if you go in the wrong way, it's a step in the right direction.
Hmm, it is. It is. It is. I'm a bit distracted today, so I don't know if I've been as helpful as I was last time.
No, you've been great. Don't say that. You are
Mm,
very much a awesome person to talk to. You always make me feel better about things. So
good.
that is a great thing.
Yeah,
And yeah, add a little giggle. Plus, I'm enjoying your beautiful, I'm going to say rock drawing in the background there.
that is yeah, that is a drawing by my daughter Lulu, who's 20 now, and I think she drew that when she was about 7. So yeah,
That
yeah.
is a good, I was worried you were going to say she drew it when she was 21 and I was going to have to come up with something good to say, but either way, it's a good draw. And I clearly recognized,
You
I
did.
hope, what it was.
Well, I don't know that it's Ayers Rock, but it's certainly a rock.
A very large
Yes,
tree
yes,
shrinking rock. It's a
yes,
good,
that's right. Well, it's perspective. So yes. But
yeah.
yeah, I think we could probably finish on that with a wrap.
I think that, we're done for the day, but
Yeah.
thank you again for your time.
Oh no, thank you. And thanks for joining me. And I'm hoping sort of what's a couple of things that you would like me to, apart from what we've talked about, is there anything that you would like me to think about for when we meet next time?
I think that you've got a couple of tasks already. We won't overload it. It's probably about time we wind down our stuff so we can just sort of talk about how wonderful we've been and how amazing you've been for me, and then like figure out where to from there.
All right. Well, I'm going to stop recording this so that we can just, yeah, get on with our evenings.